Do you know which television show managed to make the entire world stop to discuss not just the plot, but the understated clothing, the empty spaces, and the invisible elegance of the characters? Succession, the HBO series that ended in 2023 and became synonymous with something many people still do not quite understand: quiet luxury. That kind of sophistication that does not shout, does not need a visible logo, and certainly does not go around explaining its own value. And you know what is fascinating? The Roy family, billionaires and dysfunctional, lived surrounded by objects worth a fortune, but you barely noticed. Because true elegance does not announce itself, it simply exists. The characters wore Brioni, Ermenegildo Zegna, Giorgio Armani, brands that cost the price of a modest car, but no logos in sight. No screaming for attention, just noble fabrics, perfect cuts, impeccable tailoring. Shiv Roy, the only daughter, moved through power meetings wearing the Row and Max Mara, pieces that speak quietly but say everything. And when the fashion world realized people were more interested in the wardrobe from the series than in the noisy runways themselves, it understood. Quiet luxury had stopped being niche to become a silent revolution. Now, if you think this is only for people with private helicopters and Manhattan penthouses, I need to tell you, you are wrong. Silent sophistication does not live in the price of things. It lives in the intention behind each choice. And that is exactly what I am going to talk about today. The 8 secrets that transformed my life, and that can transform yours too, if you are willing to let go of excess and embrace the essential. Before I begin, if you got here because you want to cultivate a lighter life, with purpose and true elegance, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave your like. This simple gesture helps me continue sharing what I learned over the years. And believe me, every word here comes from real experience, not empty theory. First secret: invest in what really matters. We live in a culture that trained us to believe that everything is important. Mother's Day, Easter, dating anniversary, Black Friday, Consumer Day, wedding shower, baby shower, lingerie shower, the dog turning 1-year-old, new clothes for every party because, God forbid, being photographed twice in the same piece. And in the middle of this whirlwind of obligations invented by the market, you lose sight of what really sustains a well-lived life: financial freedom, free time, mental peace, complete health. Years ago, I made a radical decision. I decided that instead of spending on small things that accumulate and disappear into oblivion, cute picture frames, scented candles I never light, recipe books I never consult, clothes I wear twice and get tired of, I would invest in my freedom. This means that most of my money does not go to superfluous decoration or a stuffed wardrobe. It goes to solid investments that work for me while I sleep. And the tranquility of waking up on the 15th of each month and seeing dividend deposits landing in my account, without having done absolutely anything other than having made intelligent decisions in the past, is a luxury that no designer dress can provide. It is being able to refuse a project that does not make sense. It is being able to travel off-season, when prices are humane and beaches are empty. It is being able to choose to stay home reading a book on a Tuesday afternoon because you feel like it, not because you have the day off. When you prioritize the essential, you understand that true luxury is not in impressing strangers on the street. It is in not having to wake up at 6 in the morning if you do not want to. It is in being able to spend the entire afternoon in a bookstore without looking at the clock. It is in saying no to boring invitations without inventing elaborate excuses. Well-invested money buys time, and time is the only resource that you will never, ever, under any circumstances, recover. Each wasted hour is a dead hour. Irreversible. Gone. So next time you feel tempted to buy another cute decorative object that will gather dust in 15 days, ask yourself, is this bringing me closer to freedom or further away from it? Is this purchase an investment or an emotional expense? Am I buying a real necessity or filling an existential void with consumption? And another thing, real luxury has no visible logo. Real luxury is Egyptian cotton sheets that last 10 years. It is a cast iron pan that you pass on to the next generation. It is Japanese knives that cut tomatoes without crushing them. It is investing in a few excellent pieces instead of many mediocre ones. Quality always, quantity never. Second secret, the 90% usage rule. Here is an uncomfortable truth. If you have not used something in the last 30 days, there is a good chance that object is occupying space for nothing. And space is not just physical, it is mental, emotional, energetic. Each thing you own demands a microparticle of attention. Multiply this by 500 unnecessary objects, and you will understand why you feel exhausted for no apparent reason. The 90% usage rule is simple. Everything in your house must be used at least 90% of the time within a month, with the exception of swimsuits, unless you live in Miami, and winter coats for those who do not live in cold climates. Other than that, everything needs to justify its existence. That blender you bought to make smoothies and used 3 times? It does not deserve to be on your counter. The 47 pens in the drawer? You only need 2 that work well. The 6 pairs of practically identical sneakers? Choose 2 and donate the rest. When I applied this rule in 2010, I discovered something liberating. The less I had, the more I felt like I owned my life. Not because I became a hermit or ascetic, but because each object that remained had a reason to be. My walnut wood dining table, for example. I bought it in 2010, and it serves me to this day, every day. There I have breakfast with the newspaper on Sundays. There I work when I need a change of scenery. There I receive friends for tea. It is not just furniture. It is a character in my life. And here is a sharp observation. Sentimental memory became a modern excuse for clutter. You do not need to keep all the notes your son wrote when he was 6 years old. Take a photo of 3, the most significant ones, and discard the rest. You do not need the clothes you wore in college in the 1990s. That will not fit again, and even if it did, it has no relation to who you are today. Let go. Less is not deprivation. Less is curation. And curation is real luxury. It is having a home where you use everything, know everything, control everything. You do not need to search through 10 drawers to find the scissors. You do not need to move 20 containers to get what you need in the pantry. Everything flows because everything makes sense. Third secret, work smartly, not just hard. There is a brutal difference between being busy all day and being productive, and many people confuse the two, which results in exhausting days with mediocre results, and that bitter feeling of having run a lot without leaving the spot. Every night, before sleeping, I do a ritual that completely changed my relationship with work and productivity. I take a hardcover notebook, beige linen, nothing garish colored plastic, and write by hand. Yes, by hand, with a fountain pen. One main task for the next day. One, just one. If I solve just that task, my day will have already been productive. Everything else is secondary tasks, important but not essential. And below that main task, I put at most 4 complementary activities that, if there is time and energy left, I accomplish. This creates brutal clarity. When I wake up, I already know exactly where to direct my energy. I do not wander between insignificant emails, endless group messages, news that only increases anxiety. I go straight to the point. I drink my green tea in a ceramic bowl, look out the window for a few minutes, take 3 deep breaths, and begin. And I use a technique that completely changed my professional life, 55-minute time blocks, without distractions. I even have a vintage kitchen timer, Chrome, that I bought at an antique store. I set it for 55 minutes. Cell phone stays in another room, in airplane mode. Notifications off, office door closed. Very low instrumental background music, almost imperceptible. Usually Eric Satie or Brian Eno. Just me and the task. In those 55 minutes, something almost magical happens. The brain understands there is no escape route, that there is no easy relief valve in the form of infinite scrolling. So it dives for real, flow state, total presence, and work that would take 3 fragmented hours happens in 55 minutes of full concentration. After those 55 minutes, I take a 10-minute break, and this is sacred, non-negotiable. I get up, walk to the kitchen, prepare another tea, look at the plants on the balcony, breathe fresh air, stretch. I do not look at my cell phone. I do not read news. I do not do anything that requires cognitive processing. I just exist. And then I return for another block. I usually manage 3 blocks per morning. That is approximately 3 hours of real deep work, which equals 8 hours of dispersed and mediocre work. Minimalism at work is not about doing less. It is about doing what really generates results and cutting the rest without mercy. Unnecessary meetings? No. Emails that could be 3-line direct messages? Also, no. Projects that drain energy without clear return? Never. Professional social commitments that are just corporate theater? I decline with elegance. Working smartly is respecting your time as the finite resource it is. Each wasted hour is an hour you will never see again. It does not come back. It is gone. It was. Treat your time with the same reverent care you would treat antique porcelain, because it is more fragile and more valuable than any porcelain in the world. 4th secret. Wait 10 days before buying anything. You know that feeling of urgency when you see something you need? 90% of the time, it is not necessity. It is impulse disguised as legitimate desire. And impulse? Well, it is the enemy of elegance. Enemy of a healthy bank account, enemy of organized space, enemy of your mental peace. The 10-day rule is my guardian against empty consumerism. If I see something I want to buy, whether it is a linen blouse that caught my attention in the window, a book on Amazon, a decorative object that promises to transform my living room, I wait. I put it in the virtual cart and leave it there, fermenting. 10 days later, I revisit. And you know what happens the overwhelming majority of times? I do not even remember why it seemed so essential. The urgency evaporated. The desire revealed itself as what it was: fleeting, superficial, created by algorithm or well-assembled storefront. This rule saves me not just money, but something more valuable: mental and physical space. Because each impulsive purchase eventually becomes one more object to store, clean, organize, and, in the end, discard with guilt. It is work disguised as pleasure. It is an emotional trap wrapped in gift paper. And there is more. When you finally buy something after 10 days of waiting, the acquisition comes loaded with intention. You know exactly why you are buying. You know where you will put it. You know how it will integrate into your life. It is not just another accumulated item. It is a conscious choice, thought out, deserved. And the pleasure of using it lasts infinitely longer than the fleeting pleasure of buying. I apply this even to small things. I saw a beautiful ceramic vase in a store, here near my home. It cost $200. Beautiful, artisanal, perfect beige. I took a photo, wrote down the store name, left. 10 days later, I returned mentally to the decision: do I really need another vase? Where would it go? What plant would I put in it? I discovered that I already had a very similar vase, stored in a closet, that I did not even remember existed. I saved $200 and the embarrassment of having bought a duplicate due to lack of attention. Rampant consumerism is a socially accepted addiction. Everyone does it. Everyone applauds. Everyone posts on social media. But you do not need to participate in this collective madness. Choose to be different. Choose the pause. Choose reflection. And when you finally buy something, may it be with a light soul and a clear conscience. 5th secret. Train less, but with intention. I am going to be honest. I do not like gyms. I never did. I find them boring. I find them artificial. I think they smell like rubber and have depressing fluorescent lighting. But I understand rationally that it is necessary to keep the body healthy, energy high, posture correct, bone density adequate, and mind balanced. Physical exercise is not optional after 40. It is mandatory maintenance, like changing the oil in your car. Therefore, the solution was not to give up. It was to simplify radically. 3 times a week, I do weight training. Just 3. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 50 minutes each session. Enough to keep muscles active, posture correct, resistance up to date, functional strength preserved. I do not need more. I do not want more. And on other days, I do things I really enjoy. Long walks in the park at 7 in the morning when it is still empty. Tennis, which I started recently and am in love with. Light jogging, more meditative than athletic. Movement with pleasure. not with obligation masked as discipline. The famous rule of 20% effort that generates 80% results, known as the Pareto principle, applies here perfectly. You do not need to spend 2 hours at the gym every day to be in shape. You do not need to follow the insane schedule of a fitness influencer who makes money selling supplements. You need to do the essential, with unwavering consistency. And consistency only comes when you do not get bored, do not get exhausted, do not turn exercise into bodily punishment. Many people start wanting to go 7 days a week, thinking that more is automatically better. They work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with beginner enthusiasm. Friday, they are already tired, but go out of discipline. Saturday, they drag their body. Sunday, they collapse. The following Monday, they invent an excuse. 1 month later, they quit completely. The gym became a guilty memory, a monthly fee that deducts but does not get used. Because excess is not sustainable. It never was. It never will be. Less is more, again. Less frequency, more intention. Less quantity, more quality. Less showing off on social media, more real results in the mirror and in medical exams. And this applies to absolutely everything in life. It is not about doing more. It is not about being the most productive, the busiest, the one who sleeps the least, the one who works out the most. It is about doing the right thing, the right way, for the right amount of time, and then stopping. It is about understanding that rest is not laziness. It is about valuing emptiness, silence, creative idleness. It is about having the courage to go against the culture of excess and embrace the beauty of enough. Sixth secret: if it is not a definite yes, it is a definite no. How many times have you already accepted something, an invitation, a proposal, a commitment, and deep down, in that inner voice that never errs but that we insist on ignoring, you knew you should have refused? And then you spent days or weeks carrying the weight of that mediocre decision, just because you did not have the courage to say no at the right time? I learned a rule that simplified my life drastically and saved me an absurd amount of emotional energy. If it is not an enthusiastic yes, it is a no. Simple as that. There is no middle ground. There is no maybe. There is no let me think about it. When an opportunity appears, whether it is a dinner invitation, a work proposal, a request for a favor, and my visceral, instinctive reaction is, let me think, the answer is already given. It is no. Because if it were really something aligned with me, my body would know right away. There would be no doubt. There would be no hesitation. Recently, I was looking for a house to buy here in Los Angeles. I spent months looking at properties, and I developed a simple technique. I would enter the house, and in 5 seconds, literally 5 seconds, I already knew if it was the one or not. I did not need to see all the rooms. I did not need to imagine what it would be like to live there. I did not need to consult the floor plan. Instinct spoke first, loud and clear, and I saved hours, maybe days, simply by trusting internal clarity. There was a beautiful house in Santa Monica, full of charm, abundant natural light, a garden with mature olive trees, the realtor enthusiastic, almost pushing the sale, but something was wrong. Something I could not name, but felt in my body. I refused. 3 weeks later, I discovered the house had a serious foundation problem, structural cracks disguised with joint compound and recent paint. My body knew. It always knows. This rule applies to absolutely everything: social invitations, work projects, even romantic relationships. If you need to convince yourself, list pros and cons, ask 8 different friends for their opinion, it is probably not for you. And that is okay. More than okay. It is healthy. Saying no is an act of radical self-care. It is consciously choosing what deserves your time, your energy, your presence. And there is a wonderful bonus. When you stop accepting mediocre things out of politeness, out of guilt, out of fear of displeasing, you open enormous space for extraordinary things to arrive. Because space, again, is not just physical. It is also emotional, temporal, energetic. And you cannot receive a gift with hands busy holding junk. 7th secret: be unavailable when necessary. This one is controversial, I know, but necessary. Urgent even. We live in a sick culture of constant availability. Everyone expects you to respond immediately, to be accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Responding to emails at midnight became a distorted synonym for professional commitment. Being always online became a distorted synonym for being a good friend. But you know what happens when you are always available to everyone? You are never really present for anyone, especially for yourself. When I have a project that demands deep concentration, and I mean deep, that kind of work that requires absolute mental clarity, that flow state where you lose track of time and ideas flow without obstacle, I disappear, literally. I do not look at WhatsApp. I do not respond to personal emails. I do not answer the phone, not even from my mother. I stay days, sometimes an entire week, completely unavailable. And this is not selfishness. It is not lack of manners. It is vital necessity, a matter of creative survival. Because each interaction, no matter how loving, each message, each casual conversation, brings with it an emotional load. Someone is having a problem in their marriage. Someone needs career advice. Someone wants to share news. Someone is anxious and needs to vent. And all of this, as legitimate and important as it may be, fragments my attention. And fragmented attention produces mediocre work, produces text without soul, produces presentation without substance, produces shallow consulting. So I choose. Either I am 100% present in what I am doing, or I am not. There is no middle ground. There is no being there halfway, with one eye on work and another on the cell phone. And when I return, after days focused, submerged, completely immersed in that parallel universe of deep work, the result is always infinitely superior. Work that would take weeks of mediocre production is ready, with quality, with depth, with that something extra that only comes from prolonged silence. I warn beforehand, obviously. I do not disappear without warning. I send a message in the groups. Going offline for a week. Important project. Emergencies, call Kenji. And then silence. Delicious silence. And you know what happens? The world continues spinning. People solve their issues. Life goes on. Nobody dies. Nobody collapses. Because deep down, 95% of things that seem urgent are not. Being unavailable is a luxury you grant yourself. It is telling the world, with gentle but unwavering firmness, not now. Now it is about me, my work, my clarity, my sanity, and the world, surprisingly, respects. Because respect generates respect. 8th secret: do not sleep with a messy house. I am going to start with the basics, because the basics are where everything either collapses or holds strong. Sleeping with a messy house is like sleeping with a messy mind, and waking up already losing the game before the day even starts. I am not talking about obsessive perfectionism. I am talking about a ritual of self-respect. The sink full of dishes greets you the next morning with a visual reminder that you are always running behind, never in control. The living room table covered with random objects is an invitation to mental chaos. And that bedroom chair that became a clothing rack? It is not helping you. It is silently judging you, accumulating layers of clothes you do not know if they are clean or dirty, creating a textile limbo that only increases your morning anxiety. It was in Japan that I learned that freedom is not in having many options, but in having the right ones. And one of the most valuable lessons my grandmother Akiko taught me was this: never go to sleep making the next day harder. She used to say that each object out of place is a small debt you contract with yourself, and debts, no matter how small, weigh heavy. I adopted the 5-minute ritual every night. Yes, just 5. You pick up the remote control that is on the table. Put it away. Pick up that glass that was left on the sofa. Wash it. Fold the blanket that is thrown around. Put the shoes in their place. Quickly clean the kitchen counter. Leave the sink empty. Position the cushions. It seems silly, but when you wake up and find a serene environment, breakfast tastes different. Tea becomes more contemplative. The morning light that comes through the window seems more golden, more gentle. You start the day as the protagonist, not as a victim of your own choices from the night before. And do not come with excuses about being tired. Real exhaustion is living in the middle of the mess you created yourself, Organization is self-care disguised as discipline. It is present you taking care of future you. And when this becomes a habit, something like 2-3 weeks of consistent practice, you do not even notice anymore. The body does it on its own. The hand already knows where each thing goes. I witnessed an embarrassing scene at a party years ago. The hostess, exhausted, apologized for the normal mess of the house. But it was not normal. It was chronic accumulation disguised as a busy life, piles of unopened mail, shoes scattered at the entrance, a kitchen that looked like a battlefield. The guests smiled politely, but the discomfort was palpable. If she had the 5-minute ritual, that situation would never have existed. Because sophistication does not need money, it needs daily intention. Recapping the 8 secrets. So, taking a deep breath and reviewing everything I shared, the 8 secrets that changed my life and that, I am absolutely certain, can change yours too. First, invest in what really matters. Freedom has no price, but it has a strategy. Second, use 90% of what you own in 30 days, or get rid of the rest without mercy or guilt. Third, work smartly, not just hard. Deep focus generates results, not volume of mediocre hours. Fourth, wait 10 days before buying anything. Impulse is not necessity, it is an emotional trap. Fifth, train less, but with intention. Intelligent consistency beats unsustainable intensity. Sixth, if it is not an enthusiastic yes, it is a definite no. Trust your instinct, it never errs. Seventh, be unavailable when necessary. Your attention is sacred, protect it like treasure. Eighth, do not sleep with a messy house. 5 minutes every night, the next day thanks you with interest. None of this is about painful sacrifice. None of this requires superpowers. It is about conscious choice, daily, repeated until it becomes second nature. It is about understanding deeply that sophistication cannot be bought in a department store. It is cultivated in small and consistent decisions. It is about accepting that true luxury is not having much, it is having the right. It is waking up in a serene house, with a clear mind, healthy body, and free time to live what really matters. And look, I am not saying it is easy. It is not. Nothing worthwhile is easy in the beginning. Letting go of that coat you have not worn in 5 years, but might need someday hurts. Refusing an invitation from a dear friend because you know you do not have social energy hurts. Investing money instead of buying that beautiful bag everyone is wearing hurts. But you know what hurts more? Living years and years accumulating, running, buying, saying yes to everything, and one day waking up at 60 years old realizing you did not live, you just existed on autopilot. Each of these 8 secrets is an invitation, not an order, not a rigid rule. A gentle invitation for you to experiment with living another way. Start with one, just one. Choose the one that made the most sense to you at this exact moment. Maybe it is not sleeping with a messy house. Start today, 5 minutes before lying down. Maybe it is waiting 10 days before buying. Try once, just to see. Maybe it is working in time blocks. Test tomorrow morning. And observe. Observe how you feel. Observe the results. Observe the subtle but undeniable change that begins to happen. Because real transformation does not come from dramatic revolution. It comes from consistent evolution. From small daily adjustments that, added over months, create a completely different life. One more thought to reflect on. I was not born a minimalist. I grew up in a wealthy family with the ease of having everything. My mother, a businesswoman in the fashion industry, was obsessed with aesthetic accumulation. Having was status. Exhibiting was power. And I could have followed that path. But life, with its cruel and necessary wisdom, taught me differently. The crisis of 2008 took everything away. And in that forced emptiness, in that desert of belongings and certainties, I discovered something precious. I did not need any of that to be who I am. Today, I live in a house that breathes. Each room has intentional empty space, what the Japanese call ma, the significant interval, the emptiness that gives meaning to fullness. My pantry has 27 essential items, nothing more. My wardrobe fits in a medium closet, 33 pieces that combine infinitely, My 4 sets of Turkish cotton bath towels serve me perfectly. 2 for me, 2 for guests. And I do not miss absolutely anything. On the contrary, I feel abundance. Abundance of time, because I do not spend hours looking for things or cleaning excesses. Abundance of clarity, because my mind is not constantly processing unnecessary visual stimuli. Abundance of freedom, because I am not hostage to my possessions. They do not own me, I own them. Abundance of resources, because I do not waste money on futility and have a solid reserve. Abundance of peace, because I wake up every day in an environment that embraces me instead of demanding from me. And you know what the greatest luxury is? Being able to choose. Choosing to say no. Choosing to stay home. Choosing to work less because I invested well. Choosing quality over quantity, always. Choosing to be instead of to seem. That, dear, that is silent sophistication. That is elegance that does not need an audience. That is a life well lived. Silent sophistication is not a magazine trend. It is not a passing fashion. It is a posture toward life. It is choosing, consciously, every day, not to participate in the circus of rampant consumption. It is understanding that you do not need to prove anything to anyone, that your house does not need to look like a decorating magazine, that your wardrobe does not need to have 50 pieces, that your schedule does not need to be packed for you to be important. You are already important. You are already enough. And when you internalize this truly, everything changes. Because you stop seeking external validation through objects, titles, occupations, and you begin to build life from the inside out, not from the outside in. So today, now, at this moment, make a small but significant choice. Choose one of the 8 secrets and apply it. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you have time. Now, get up, do that 5-minute tidying, or open the virtual shopping cart and delete everything. Or pick up your phone and respond to that invitation you have been putting off. I will not be able to attend, but thank you for the invitation. Whatever the choice, act. Because knowledge without action is entertainment. And you did not come here to be entertained. You came to transform. So transform. Start small, but start. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue learning about minimalism with substance, elegance without ostentation, and how to live with more lightness, purpose, and true sophistication, do not forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Each support from you helps me continue sharing, honestly and without unnecessary embellishments, what I learned over these years of daily practice. And now, tell me in the comments, is less really more? Leave your honest opinion if you liked the video. I want to know which of the 8 secrets resonated most with you, which you will try first. This exchange is precious to me. Until next time, with more charm, clarity, and that serene elegance that does not need spotlights to shine. Naomi.